Imagine this. You've spent years raising your children, providing for them, and giving them your love. But now, they barely listen, talk back, or ignore you completely. It hurts. You feel disrespected, unappreciated, and perhaps even invisible in your own home. But here's the truth. Respect is not something we demand, it's something we cultivate. And today, I'm going to share 6 powerful ways to regain the respect of your children without yelling, punishing, or feeling helpless. These are strategies that can rebuild your relationship, earn their admiration, and restore the harmony you deserve in your family. Respect is cultivated, not demanded. Many parents assume that because they are older and have raised their children, respect should come naturally. But the truth is, children do not automatically respect authority figures unless they see and experience respect in action. They learn more from what they observe than what they are told. If a child grows up in a household where yelling, belittling, or dismissiveness is common, they internalize that behavior as normal. They don't necessarily process it as disrespectful, they simply mirror what they see. This is why leading by example is crucial. When speaking to your children, use a tone that you would want to receive in return. If they make a mistake, correct them firmly but without humiliation. If they express an opinion, even one you disagree with, listen fully before responding. A child who feels heard is far more likely to reciprocate that level of attentiveness. When parents model patience, kindness, and self-control, children naturally absorb these qualities and reflect them back. It's also important to show respect in moments of frustration. Imagine a teenager who comes home late without calling. Many parents immediately react with anger, raising their voices and demanding an explanation. But what if, instead, you waited until they were home, took a deep breath, and said, "I was worried about you. I need to understand why you didn't call." This approach still communicates that their actions were wrong, but it also demonstrates self-restraint, concern, and respect. When you model this, children are more likely to respond in kind. Respect is also demonstrated in everyday interactions. How often do you interrupt your child mid-sentence? How often do you dismiss their feelings with statements like, "It's not a big deal," or, "You're overreacting"? These small habits, when repeated over time, teach children that their voices don't matter, leading them to either shut down or act out in defiance. Instead, practice active listening. Look them in the eyes when they speak, nod in acknowledgement, and respond thoughtfully. Even if you don't agree, showing that you value their perspective makes them feel respected, and in turn, they'll learn to respect you. Respect goes beyond words, it's in actions too. Keeping promises, admitting when you're wrong, and treating your child with dignity even in moments of correction all contribute to an environment where respect thrives. When you consistently embody respect in your daily life, your children will not only respect you more, but they will also develop a strong foundation for respecting others in their lives. Setting clear and consistent boundaries is another essential step in regaining your child's respect. Children, especially as they grow older, test limits. It's a natural part of their development, but if they find that rules are flexible or consequences are inconsistent, they quickly learn to push boundaries further. A parent who says, "You're grounded for a week," but then lets the punishment slide after 2 days, teaches their child that rules are negotiable. This inconsistency leads to manipulation, power struggles, and ultimately, a lack of respect. Boundaries create security. A child who knows exactly what is expected of them feels a sense of stability and fairness. When rules change constantly or are only enforced when a parent is in a bad mood, children become confused and resentful. Consistency is key. If you say bedtime is at 9 p.m., then it should be 9 p.m. every night, not just when you remember or when it's convenient. If a consequence is given, follow through with it. Empty threats diminish credibility and weaken authority. However, setting boundaries does not mean being overly strict or authoritarian. It means being clear about what is acceptable and what isn't, and ensuring that the consequences align with the behavior. For instance, if a child refuses to do their homework, an appropriate boundary might be that they lose screen time until it's completed. This directly connects their action to the consequence, making it easier for them to understand and respect the rule. It's also important to explain the reasons behind rules. Instead of saying, "Because I said so," take a moment to help them understand the logic. If a child asks why they can't have unlimited screen time, explaining that too much exposure affects their sleep and concentration makes them more likely to respect the rule. When children understand the reasoning behind a boundary, they are more inclined to follow it without resentment. Respecting boundaries also means respecting their individuality. While structure is necessary, forcing a child into rigid expectations without considering their personality, interests, or emotions can backfire. If your child prefers to study late at night rather than in the afternoon, consider allowing them that flexibility as long as they meet their responsibilities. Giving them some control within a structured framework teaches them accountability while maintaining mutual respect. Another critical part of enforcing boundaries is avoiding emotional outbursts. Many parents react impulsively when rules are broken, resorting to yelling or punishments driven by anger. This can undermine respect rather than reinforce it. If a child makes a mistake, take a moment to calm yourself before addressing it. Speak with a steady tone and explain the consequence logically. When discipline is approached with emotional control, children are more likely to accept responsibility rather than rebel against authority. Boundaries should also apply to parents. If you set a rule that there is no yelling in the house, then you must also abide by that rule. If you expect them to put their phone away during dinner, you should do the same. When children see that boundaries apply to everyone, they perceive them as fair and are more likely to respect them. Respect and boundaries go hand in hand. When parents model respectful behavior and enforce consistent boundaries, children learn that respect is not about control but about mutual understanding. This balance fosters a relationship where children respect their parents not out of fear, but out of genuine admiration and appreciation. Many parents struggle to find the balance between being strong and being understanding. Some believe that showing too much empathy will make them seem weak, while others fear that being too firm will push their children away. But real respect comes from striking the right balance, being both a guide and a listener. Children, especially as they grow older, develop their own thoughts, feelings, and opinions. They want to be heard and acknowledged. When parents dismiss their emotions or respond with strict authority alone, children often withdraw or push back in defiance. Imagine a child coming home from school upset about something that happened with a friend. A common parental reaction might be, "It's not a big deal," or, "You'll get over it." While this response may come from a place of experience, having seen that small problems eventually fade, it feels dismissive to a child. The more they feel ignored, the less likely they are to open up in the future. A better approach is to listen first and acknowledge their feelings before offering guidance. Saying, "That sounds really tough. Want to tell me more about it?" makes them feel valued and understood. Being firm does not mean being cold or distant. It means setting expectations while also making space for emotions. If a child refuses to follow a rule, instead of immediately issuing punishment, ask why they are resisting. Maybe they are overwhelmed with schoolwork, feeling peer pressure, or struggling with something internally. Addressing their underlying feelings can make them more willing to follow your guidance. At the same time, being empathetic does not mean bending the rules. If they broke a rule, they should still face the appropriate consequence, but delivering it with understanding rather than frustration makes a difference. One of the biggest mistakes parents make is assuming that being softer or more understanding means losing authority. In reality, a child who feels respected is more likely to respect in return. If they feel like their thoughts matter, they won't need to rebel just to be heard. However, they also need to know that while their feelings are important, they do not override the rules. A firm but empathetic approach tells them, "I care about you, but I am also here to guide you." Finding this balance is especially crucial during teenage years. This is the stage where children naturally test boundaries, question authority, and seek independence. They want to know they have a voice, but they also need structure. If parents are too strict, teens may become secretive, avoiding communication altogether. If parents are too lenient, teens may lose respect and start to feel like they don't need guidance at all. The goal is to listen, acknowledge their thoughts, and still reinforce family values and expectations. Children also need to see this balance in action. If parents always react emotionally, they teach their children to do the same. If parents shut down discussions, they teach children that communication isn't important. Modeling calm, clear, and compassionate conversations shows them the right way to handle conflict and decision-making. The way you speak to them now shapes the way they will interact with others in the future. A mistake that often weakens respect between parents and children is overgiving. Many parents love their children so much that they want to make their lives as easy as possible. They step in at every challenge, solve every problem, and give without expecting much in return. While this comes from a place of care, it can accidentally create entitlement instead of respect. When children receive everything without effort, they stop appreciating what they have. They may start to expect things to be handed to them, and when they don't get their way, they might react with frustration rather than gratitude. The truth is, children value things more when they have to work for them. If they are given an expensive toy without effort, it's just another item. But if they save up their allowance or work towards earning it, they appreciate it far more. The same applies to responsibilities. If parents always clean up after their children, do their chores for them, or fix every mistake, kids never learn accountability. They begin to believe that someone else will always take care of their problems. This mindset not only affects their respect for their parents but also their ability to function independently later in life. Teaching responsibility is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give. One way to do this is by setting clear expectations for contributions at home. Every family member should have tasks to complete, not as punishment, but as part of teamwork. When children help set the table, clean their rooms, or take care of a pet, they learn that they are part of a unit where everyone contributes. It teaches them that respect isn't just about words, it's also about action. Another important aspect of this is letting children experience the natural consequences of their actions. If a child forgets their homework and a parent rushes to bring it to school every time, the child never learns responsibility. Instead, they should face the minor consequence of a lower grade or a teacher's disappointment. These small lessons early on prevent bigger struggles later in life. If a teenager spends all their money on unnecessary items and doesn't have enough left for something important, they should be allowed to experience that consequence rather than having a parent step in and fix it. This does not mean being harsh or refusing to help. It simply means stepping back enough for children to learn from their choices. A parent's role is to guide, not to rescue at every turn. Overhelping might make things easier in the moment, but it takes away valuable learning experiences that build character, resilience, and respect. When children learn responsibility, they also learn gratitude. They begin to appreciate the effort that goes into providing for them, whether it's making meals, keeping a home in order, or working hard to support the family. They no longer see these things as entitlements but as acts of care that deserve recognition. This shift in perspective naturally fosters respect. At the same time, it's important for parents to acknowledge effort rather than just outcomes. If a child makes an attempt to complete a task but struggles, recognizing their effort encourages them to keep trying. Instead of saying, "You didn't do this right, try, I see you worked hard on this, let's figure out how to improve it." Encouragement builds motivation, and motivated children are more likely to respect and listen to their parents. Ultimately, raising responsible children who respect their parents is not about control, it's about guidance. It's about showing them that while they are loved unconditionally, they are also expected to contribute, learn, and grow. When parents shift from overgiving to expecting accountability, they raise children who respect not only their parents but also themselves and the world around them. Many parents struggle with the feeling that their children take them for granted. They give everything, time, energy, love, and resources, only to receive indifference or even disrespect in return. But what often goes unnoticed is that appreciation is not something that comes naturally, it must be cultivated. Children who grow up always having their needs met without being taught gratitude may not even realize they are being ungrateful. They simply assume that what they receive is normal, expected, and endless. Teaching appreciation requires a shift in perspective, and this shift starts with the parents. One of the most effective ways to encourage gratitude is by creating moments that highlight effort and value. Instead of simply providing everything without discussion, involve your children in the process. If they want a new toy, encourage them to save up for it or contribute in some way. If they enjoy meals at home, have them participate in cooking or setting the table so they understand the work behind it. When they see firsthand what goes into providing for them, they start to recognize the effort involved and naturally develop appreciation. Another way to nurture appreciation is by making gratitude a daily practice in the household. Encourage children to express thanks not just for material things but for actions. If a parent helps them with homework, if a sibling shares a snack, or if a teacher gives extra guidance, take a moment to acknowledge it. A simple, "Did you say thank you?" or "Isn't it nice that they helped you?" reinforces the idea that gratitude should be expressed. But appreciation is more than just saying, "Thank you." It's about understanding value. A child who is given unlimited access to everything they want rarely stops to consider what it means to earn something. This is why entitlement develops. When children receive without effort, they assume that's how life works. To break this cycle, parents must introduce the concept of earning, waiting, and appreciating. If a child demands a new phone, rather than immediately agreeing, have them take responsibility for something in return, whether that's chores, academic goals, or good behavior. Parents also need to model appreciation themselves. If children see their parents saying, "Thank you," to each other, acknowledging small acts of kindness, and treating service workers with respect, they internalize these behaviors. If a child sees a parent ignore a waiter, complain about everything, or never express gratitude, they'll learn that appreciation is unnecessary. The best way to teach gratitude is to live it. Another common mistake is giving too much too often. While it's natural to want to provide the best for children, constant giving without limits can backfire. A child who gets a new toy every time they ask will soon expect it as a right rather than a privilege. Instead, parents can set limits, making gifts and rewards meaningful rather than routine. When things are given with purpose and timing, they hold more value. Appreciation also grows when children experience contrast. Volunteering, donating toys, or spending time with those who have less can help children understand that not everyone has the same privileges. This doesn't mean making them feel guilty but rather helping them see their own blessings with fresh eyes. When children recognize that what they have is not universal, they begin to cherish it more. Beyond material things, appreciation should extend to relationships. Parents do so much behind the scenes, providing meals, organizing schedules, offering emotional support, yet much of this goes unnoticed. Rather than pointing it out in frustration, parents can encourage recognition by gently bringing attention to it. Saying, "I made your favorite meal because I know you had a tough day," or "I rearranged my schedule to make it to your game," helps children see the thoughtfulness behind actions. When they start to recognize these efforts, they become more likely to respond with respect and gratitude. Many parents feel frustrated when they see their children being more polite and respectful to teachers, coaches, or even strangers than to them. It's a painful experience to watch a child say, "Please," and "Thank you," outside the home while being dismissive or rude at home. This happens because children often see parents as a constant presence, someone who will always be there regardless of how they act. They don't always realize that respect should be consistent, not selective. Restoring respect within the household starts with making it a standard. It's not enough to demand respect in moments of conflict, it must be an everyday expectation. If a child speaks rudely, rather than brushing it off, calmly address it in the moment. Say, "I deserve to be spoken to with kindness, just like you do." The key is consistency. If respect is expected in some moments but ignored in others, children receive mixed signals. Another effective way to reinforce respect is by maintaining your own self-respect. Parents who allow themselves to be walked over, who give in to every demand, or who tolerate disrespect send a message that they do not need to be valued. This does not mean being harsh or distant, but it does mean having firm boundaries. If a child rolls their eyes, speaks in a rude tone, or dismisses a parent's words, there should be a consequence. Not out of anger, but as a lesson in how relationships work. If a child wouldn't speak to a teacher or a friend that way, they shouldn't speak to a parent that way either. Respect is also built through mutual understanding. Children need to know that while they are expected to show respect, they are also deserving of it. Parents who bark orders, use demeaning language, or ignore their child's opinions weaken their own authority. A child who feels valued is far more likely to reciprocate respect. Engaging in discussions, asking for their thoughts, and explaining decisions rather than simply enforcing them builds a foundation of mutual respect. Restoring respect also involves fostering independence. A child who is overly dependent on their parents for everything, from decision-making to problem-solving, may take them for granted. Encouraging autonomy, allowing children to make choices, and holding them accountable for those choices helps them develop maturity and appreciation. When they experience the weight of responsibility, they begin to respect the guidance and support their parents provide. It's also important to choose battles wisely. Not every disagreement needs to become a power struggle. If a child expresses frustration or has a different opinion, rather than immediately asserting authority, listen first. Let them explain their perspective, even if you ultimately maintain your stance. This teaches them that respect goes both ways and that being heard is not the same as always getting their way. Ultimately, the goal is not to demand respect through fear or authority, but to earn it through consistency, fairness, and self-respect. When children see that their parents stand firm in their values while also treating them with dignity, they'll learn that respect is not about control, it's about understanding. Over time, this creates a relationship built on trust, where respect is not just given out of obligation but out of genuine admiration and appreciation.